Hi everyone, in this video we'll learn to create this object reveal VFX animation in After Effects. This effect is created entirely in After Effects without any third-party plugins, and it can also be used to reveal pretty much any object. So before we get started, we will need two images to create the effect. So these are the two images that I have. One will be the object right here, and the other will be the same image without the object, so just the background. So here I have my laptop that I'll be using, and then this is the photograph without the object in the front. This can be done simply by placing your camera on a tripod and taking a photo of the object first, then removing it out of the picture and taking an image of the background. So our first step here is to create a new project. And then on the left hand side, we're going to click on this icon that creates a new folder and name this Assets. And in here, we can drag both of our pictures into the folder. So here they are. And then we'll go up to Composition, New Composition. So we're going to create three of them. One is for the background specifically, another one for the laptop, and another one called Main that will actually have all of our project files in it. So New Composition, I'm going to call this BG, 1280 by 720 since that's what we've been using in our classwork. Frame rate, I'm leaving it to the default settings, and then duration, I'm going to reduce this down to 10 seconds. Click OK. And in here, in this composition, I'm going to drag the background image, and then since it's quite large, I'm going to press S on the keyboard and scale this down to 32, and that should fit in properly. You can obviously adjust this to whatever photo that you have. And then I'm going to click in here and create another one called Laptop. Leave everything the way it is, click OK, and drag my laptop image in here. So now, essentially, like I said, we have two compositions. Each one of them has their own images. I'm going to do the same thing here, scale it down to 32. And now if I navigate between the two compositions, you'll see how nicely it fits together. Lastly, we're going to create a composition called Main. Click OK, and then drag background and laptop into the main composition. And then our next step to actually start creating the reveal, we're going to click on laptop, and here's basically the thought process. When you click on laptop, we want to mask this specific object out of this layer. To do that, we can click on the pen tool, zoom in wherever a starting point for your object might be, and then start masking this image out. Try to be as precise as possible, since you do not want any of the background pieces from this layer to show when we're masking it out. So I'm going to speed this process up and then see you on the other side. Alright, so I'm done masking out my laptop. One thing I forgot to mention is that for my photograph, my object already has a shadow at the bottom here. As you can see, it's very subtle, but it matches in with the environment. So be sure that whatever photograph that you take, you also include the shadows. You can also remove the shadows and add your own later on, but that's an additional step. So once that's done, I'm going to move off the pen tool and go back to remove tool, and you can see I can simply move this thing around and isolate it from the background and photograph. So the next step is for us to create the actual reveal. To do that, we'll go back up to Composition, create a new one, and we're going to call this one Matte. Leave all the preferences the same, click OK, and then we're going to double click on this rectangle, the Shape tool. This will create a full background shape that we can animate for the reveal. Make sure that the fill is set to white, no stroke, and then to animate the shape, we're going to click in on the layer, select P on the keyboard, add a position keyframe here, go to about 4 seconds. There we go, and then hold down Shift and move it all the way just until it's off our screen. And then if you play back, this is what it looks like. Now we want to add a bit more effect so that it looks like it's disappearing rather than just sliding off the screen. To do that, we're going to go into the Effects and Presets tab and then search for Turbulence. Select Turbulence Displace and add it onto the shape layer. Now for the settings for Turbulence Displace, we want this a bit more with a bit more variation. I'm going to set the complexity to 10 and then the size to 300 and the amount to about 25. And then if you play it back, this is what it looks like. Perfect. Now we're going to use that as the base layer for our reveal. Back in the main composition, we are going to duplicate this laptop layer. So you can do that by going up to Edit or hit on the keyboard Command D. And I'm going to hide the bottom layer and move it to the bottom because we will be using this later on very shortly. And then we are going to select Matte from our projects panel, drag the composition down, and if you play it, it's slowly popping up on the screen, but we actually just want it to show up only for the object that we have. So to do that, select Laptop, click on the Track Matte Pick Whip, and drag to the matte layer. And now you'll see when you play it back, it's actually hiding the layer rather than revealing it. So this is a very simple step. All we need to do is invert the mask, and there you go. It slowly reveals to us. Now at this point, you can actually adjust to however you would like the object to reveal. Very simple step. You're just going to show the matte layer, and then change the rotation of the layer to match your object. For me, I'm actually going to change this to about a -46, and I'm also going to scale it on the axis, so it's going to stay 100 and then move to 128 about vertical. And then I'm going to move this thing to position it right over my laptop, just like that. And then if I play it back, probably move it a little bit further back, and that looks good to me. I'm going to hide the matte layer once more and then play it. There we go. And that is how you create the basic reveal. Next, we're actually going to create some glow and effect and particle animation to give this a bit more of that oomph and a more of a rugged feel. Now we're going to unhide the bottom laptop layer and move it to the very top. We're going to duplicate this matte layer, move that to the top as well. And then we're going to pick whip laptop to matte so that it's essentially the same, and make sure that it's inverted. Select the top two layers, the matte and laptop, right click and pre-compose. And we are going to call this edge. And then double click inside edge, select the two layers, duplicate them one more time and move it to the very top. Make sure that the pick whip is still there and it's still inverted. And then we're going to select the top two layers one more time, right click, pre-compose, and we're going to call this one edge matte. And we're going to do the same thing with the bottom two layers, select them, right click, pre-compose, and we're going to call this edge matte 2. Once that's done, if you play it back, it should still look the same, perfect. And then we're going to apply a fill color to give it some of that fiery look. Go into Effects and Presets tab and search up fill. I'm going to select this effect, drop it onto edge matte 2, and then you can change the color to any color that you would like. I'm going to stick with this orangey red. Click OK. And then we're going to offset the top layer just a touch to give it more volume. So I'm going to move it 1 frame. You can move it more or less depending however you like, but this looks good to me. And then I'm going to select the pick whip because I want only the effect to show, not the object. So pick whip edge matte 2 and place it on edge matte and then invert so you get that fiery look. Now unfortunately you can most likely still see the outline of the object, but to get rid of that, we're going to select Edge Matte 2. Once again, go on to Effects and Presets tab and type in Mini Max. Select it and drag it onto the layer. And then we're going to change operation to minimum, channel to alpha, and then turn the radius up to maybe 1 or 2. 1 looks good for me, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Perfect. Make sure that everything looks good over here, and then we're going to go back to the main composition, and let's see how this looks before we move forward. Good. And I'm going to select Edge and change the mode from normal to add, and it gives, now it's starting to look a bit more like fire and burn. I am going to select the bottom 2 layers and offset it by 1 frame. There we go. It's a very small difference, but if you see it back and forth, you'll see that this one, if you offset it by 1 frame, it gives it a bit more of a realistic look. And then I'm going to add a glow to Edge. So go back into Effects and Presets and look for glow, drag it onto the layer, and then you can play around with this just the way you like it. There's really no there's no correct way of doing this, but I am going to set the first one, glow threshold to 29.4, glow radius to 14, and then intensity to 0.5. And I like the way that looks. And then we're going to duplicate glow, select the effect one more time, duplicate it by pressing Command D on your keyboard, and then I'm going to change these settings a bit more, so 91.4, and then leave intensity the same, and then we're going to duplicate it one more time. And I'm going to change these settings a little bit more, so 100, and the intensity to 1. There we go. And that's how you get a bit more of that burn look for your object reveal. Now the last thing that we're going to do for our animation is add a camera shake, and to do that, all we're going to do is right click anywhere in a blank spot here and go to New Adjustment Layer. And then on the adjustment layer, we're going to apply a transform effect. So search up transform, drag it onto the layer, and then we are going to also search for slider controls. So slider control, and add that as well, and then click on slider control and duplicate the effect so that we have 2 of them. Once that's done, hold down Option on a Mac or Alt on a Windows, and hold down Option and click Position Stopwatch, and you will get the expressions here. All we're going to do is type in wiggle, select that, and then pick whip the expression position to slider control 1, add a comma, and then pick whip one more time to slider control 2. There we go. Now we'll be able to control the shake by moving the sliders rather than having to type it in here. So to add the shake, I'm going to start around just before the animation starts, so about 17 is good, and then add a keyframe for both of the sliders, and then halfway through the effect, so around 2 seconds, I'm going to add keyframe again, and then move on to as soon as it finishes, so around 3.7 seconds, and then add another keyframe for both of them. Then go back to the second position, and you're going to change slider 1 to about 50. You can always play around with these to match whatever style you're going for, and then change the second slider to 10, and then now let's watch and see how it looks. Yep, that looks good to me. One thing you'll notice is that halfway through here, sometimes it goes a little out of frame, and I don't want that. So to fix it, we're going to go back to effects and presets and search for an effect called motion tile. Select it and drag it onto the layer, and then make sure motion tile is actually at the very top of our effects control panel, above the transform. There we go. And then I'm going to change the width and the height to 150 both, and make sure that mirror edges is turned on. Let's play it one more time. There we go. And that is how you create an object reveal effect. Thank you for watching.